Do it.
Hello and welcome. We are the Aussie Guys. I'm AJ. Here with me is G. And we also have, I'm not going to bury the lead because he is on screen. He's here. We've been talking to him. It's our good friend Randy Young from the Dynasty Warzone Memphis. How are you?
Morning. I guess evening for you guys. How y'all doing?
Oh, excellent, mate. Excellent. Thanks for coming on. I've got the shades going just because of the star power we have on. It's just I can't look at you because it's just so bright.
You said star power. I thought you had eye surgery yesterday. You have to wear those for the camera light. But thank you for the warm reception. Happy to be back. It's been a little while.
It has been a while, mate, and it's good to have you back. Have those dulcet tones instead of listening to one Australian that sort of hacks the English language and the other one that speaks to a room full of kids every day, so he's got it down pat.
You could easily, G, have opened with, I feel the need for speed.
When's that coming out?
Last I heard November.
Delayed or?
No, November. So we still got to wait till November.
I think they're trying to catch the holiday movie rush. So like the big times in cinema, I believe, are like the summer. You get your quote unquote summer blockbusters. And then they try to get those ones because, people are off work, kids are out of school. So, they're chasing that dollar. And I can't blame them. They've been out of the theater business for a while. So,
hell yeah.
More power to them at this point.
Mate, I remember when that movie came out, and I went and saw it. And I reckon nearly every kid that went in there wanted to be a fighter pilot after walking out of there.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it works that way with all those movies, right? Like if you watch Lone Survivor, the Marcus Luttrell story with Mark Wahlberg, or the Chris Kyle movie with I'm drawing a blank on the guy, but when you all of the kids wanted to go be a Navy SEAL. This Chris Kyle story. Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper played Chris Kyle.
That's right. Yes, Sniper.
And all of a sudden, there for a 3-year run, all the kids wanted to be Navy SEALs. So I mean, we go with what's on the big screen. So there was a generation like ours. We wanted to be fighter pilots like Tom Cruise.
Yes.
Now there's an entire generation behind us that want to be Navy SEALs because of the movies. That's just how it works.
No, just give him a couple of years, mate. No line a gun anyway.
Tom Cruise is looking in pretty good shape, but Val Kilmer is not. It's fair to say. I don't think Val's got a part, has he?
He may. I don't know. He may do a run-in.
I know. I don't think he runs.
He may do a walk-in.
Isn't he like some artist, arty, turning some arty type sort of bloke now?
Oh, I shouldn't say he's a sort of a little bit interesting.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's a little bit interesting.
I think the term's eclectic.
Eclectic is a great word, without saying he's loopy. Yeah, it's eclectic. Actually, I should say there's a doco coming out. It's one that he's made, and he's shot all this film over the years, which I think will be fascinating. But anyway, we digress because the main topic is the New York Giant. No, the Indianapolis Colts.
We can totally do Giants, but I prefer to do Colts.
No, let's not do New York Giants. Mind you, we were speaking at length about Green Bay. My goodness. We could just do a Green Bay preview, but let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts. That's why our guest is here specifically. Yeah. And, the Colts in 2020, Randy, were pretty good. I mean, they finished 11-5. It was the third season under Frank Reich and Chris Ballard. Losing to the Bills in the wild card game 24-27. I mean, that's pretty respectable. And so, for all the what's a nice word to say? I can't think of a nice word for all the crap that Phillip Rivers got. And I mean, I knew that. Look, I'm a Charger fan. I love Phillip Rivers, but he was toast. He was toast when he went to the Colts, and I think the Colts knew that. Really, him coming in, he was a bridge, and he played pretty decent. Honestly, you can't really knock the guy. I mean, you can, but he played fine. He played fine when you look at the numbers, and I challenge you, Randy. I mean, you can't. I don't know that you can put that wild card loss on the back of Philip Rivers. I mean,
he didn't give up 27 points.
Yeah, well,
exactly. There should be a day and time when scoring 24 points in a playoff game on the road should probably get you a W. But
hell yeah, that's exactly right. So the Colts have. Let's just start with free agency, because that sort of is a nice bridge from the bridge to the next man up.
Can I just chirp in quickly just about the whole Philip Rivers thing? Like, Randy and I speak off air. He hasn't called me for a while. I think he's angry with me for some reason, but that's okay. That's okay. He's probably a busy man. But we've spoken about, and I said the problem with having Philip Rivers is the fact that he's good enough to get you, and he got you to the playoffs. I actually didn't know if you're going to make it to the playoffs, but he was going to put you in a position where you weren't going to get a pick at a quarterback in this year's draft. And he's going to be a bridge quarterback. What is he bridging to? Jacob Eason?
Here's the thing. Chris Ballard and Frank Reich were handed a really bad situation. They thought they had a top 3 quarterback in the league, and Andrew Luck. I'm not sure either one of these gentlemen take this job. They had a great year in 2018 with Andrew Luck. In 2019, Andrew Luck retires. It's the Jacoby Brissett show. Did the Jacoby shit show. Kind of the same. But they got through it. I mean, I think they were 7-9 or 9-7 with Jacoby. They were just right around 500. And they have continued. It's not like, you take any team. If Patrick Mahomes retires tomorrow, there's Aaron Rodgers retires tomorrow. If Justin Herbert retires tomorrow, any team that has that happen, you lose a star quarterback, you're in bad shape for the next 2 or 3 years, and that's all they're trying to do. Is they're just trying to figure out their future, and I think maybe, just maybe, they have it.
Yeah, I was just thinking, do you tread water, basically, is what you're doing, or do you just go, okay, I'm just going to drown?
I think
and hope someone can revive me in 12 months, 2 years' time with a,
The success of Philip Rivers was validated, though. I think Philip Rivers was a bridge in an attempt for that team in general to say, hey, guys, we think you're a playoff roster. We think you're a championship potential roster. So we owe it to you to get a veteran quarterback to give us a shot. And that's exactly what Philip Rivers did. He gave him a shot. They got in the playoffs, finished in a tie for the division with Tennessee that they won on a tiebreaker. They went to Buffalo, had a great showing. Now Phil's gone. He's going to go coach high school football.
Yes,
and live his best life. Take his $200 million in career earnings and go have some fun. So good for him. It's about time he retires. He's got like 9 kids to support.
Yes. Yeah, but that's when you don't want to retire. You got 9 kids to support.
Now let's talk free agency, and I was going to say it might be notable for the people you kept. Well, it's probably notable mostly for one particular name. There are some other players that you signed, obviously, and then players that left the building. So players that left the building: Trey Burton, Malik Hooker, Anthony Walker, Tavon Austin, and Philip Rivers, who retired, of course. Re-signing T.Y., re-signing Marlon Mack and Xavier Rhodes. And amongst the players that you signed, Eric Fisher, and of course, the big prize, which was Carson Wentz. So talk about that as a whole, Randy, but you can mostly, really honestly, just talk to us about Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I don't want to gloss over the fact that you bring T.Y. back. But I do like the Carson Wentz deal. Again, I'm glad that you've already brought up the point of Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers, you're wearing an LA Chargers jersey. At the end of last season, the the thought was Philip Rivers was ready for retirement then. He's ready for the glue factory to shuffle him on to retirement. And he goes to Indianapolis, and I'll be the first to admit, as a Colts fan, I wasn't a huge fan of this deal. But all he does is goes out and has a 68% completion rate, throws for 4,169 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. This was really, really good numbers for Philip Rivers. I mean, they weren't necessarily career numbers, but from an efficiency standpoint, he was really, really good in Indianapolis last year. So then you bring in Carson Wentz, right? And I know that he had a bad season. Let's be honest. He did not have a very good year. But what was supporting him? I think they had the most different offensive line combinations in the NFL last year. I mean, his best wide receivers and pass catchers outside of Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, all the literal wide receivers were terrible. And now he comes to Indy, and this is something that may interest your audience, it may not. My son did baseball tryouts for 3 hours on Thursday night, and we were sitting there watching, and one of the parents was a guidance counselor, and the topic of football comes up because I'm a football guy, and we were talking about Carson Wentz, and this is a gentleman who's a guidance counselor, not too far off from what you do for a living, AJ, and we got onto the topic of Carson Wentz's personality fit in Indianapolis. Now, Carson Wentz is a North Dakota kid. Likes to hunt, camp, fish, much more of an outdoorsman. I'll be the first to admit that he does maybe not have the strongest ability to handle a rough media. And now he's coming to Indianapolis. We're pretty laid back here. Things for him to be able to do of his interest. He's probably living a lifestyle that he more enjoys. And he's reunited with Frank Reich from a football perspective. Best year of his career were with Frank Reich. So for me, giving up a second and a third that could become a first and a third, I don't mind that. If we get 85% of Carson Wentz from 2017, the Colts won this deal in a landslide. And here's the other part that no one talks about. Of his mega contract, Philadelphia has already paid a good portion of that because the money he gets on an annual basis, part of that was the signing bonus of that deal, which he gets when he signs the deal. Well, that check was scratched by Jeffrey Lurie, not by Jim Irsay. So not only did they get him, they're getting him for about $20 million a year. That's a lot of money for us working class folk, but for an NFL quarterback, that's pretty good money considering they paid Jacoby Brissett $20 million last year and Philip Rivers $25 million last year. So you're saving money, gives them room in the cap to have a DeForest Buckner. They're going to have to sign Darius Leonard. So getting Carson Wentz is going to wind up serving the Colts in a lot of ways.
Look, he comes to a franchise with probably the one of the top two offensive lines in the NFL. But I was a little more concerned about Carson Wentz last year, just his mental fragility. When things weren't going right, they bring in another quarterback, and it really messed with him. Okay, he hasn't got anybody to worry about. At the fact we got Jacob Eason at the moment, who's the 4th round pick. Still don't know what he is. Never taken a snap in a football game. But then you go and draft in the 6th round Sam Elina. I don't know how you pronounce his last name.
The young man from Texas.
Out of Texas, yeah. But I was more concerned about the fact that the fragility of Carson Wentz's state of mind last year in Philadelphia, that he didn't seem to overcome too much. Does that concern you, or the fact that he's going to be back with Frank Reich and there's no one pushing for his job?
I think except you work for yourself. So when things get bad for you, you got to look in the mirror. But the rest of us work for somebody. And when things are down, I still have a mentor. He's retired, but he's in a completely different industry than I'm in now. But if I ever need anything, I can go back to him. I can have conversations. I can bounce things off of him. And now Carson Wentz is going back to the guy that, he was having an MVP season. Let's not kid ourselves. If Carson Wentz does not blow out his knee against the Rams and he finishes those 3 games, he wins the MVP that year. And he had a heck of a year in 2017. And I think this is too much recency bias. All we can see is last year's 3-8 record. He was 3-8-1 when he got pulled for Jalen Hurts, 57% completions, and 16 TDs. But we seem to forget the just the year before, he went 9-7 for 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, won the division, and 0 of his wide receivers had 500 yards or more receiving. So threw for 4,000 yards, and not one wide receiver had more than 500 yards. We forget that because all we can see is the last year. We don't go back and look at the fact that he had a 33 touchdown season, and last in 2019 was a 27 touchdown season. And again, look at any quarterback that's worked with Frank Reich, and that's my challenge. Look at anyone: Jacoby Brissett, Andrew Luck, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz. They've all had their most efficient season under Frank Reich. What's going to change? He's moving into a dome, no crappy Philly weather. I just don't understand why there wouldn't be, more optimism around this signing.
Oh, it's not. Look, mate, I've got Carson Wentz in fantasy leagues, mate. I want it to work out, but I was just thinking, like as you said there, it's the fact that when things are going well, he's going well, but when there's an obstacle in the way or things get a little bit rough, he didn't seem to cope with it all that well last year. But it's nothing to do with what he's done. It's just that overcoming adversity, and he had to play under great adversity last year, and he just didn't cracks seem to appear.
Well, I will say perception's a son of a bitch, because we're all on board with Aaron Rodgers. Oh, they're not supporting him. They're not helping him.
No, screw Aaron Rodgers, mate.
Get this guy out of here. Get him some help. They're not getting him anybody. But Carson Wentz, for what, I don't know if it's because Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay are in the Midwest and it's wholesome here, and Philadelphia is just this rough and tough and rumble city, which it is. It's like, screw him. He's not mentally tough. I just don't get the consistency there. We feel bad. We feel bad for Aaron Rodgers. He's not been supported. He's not been given offensive weapons. But here we go. We're gonna pass on DK Metcalf, and we're gonna give you Jalen Reagor. We're gonna pass on Justin Jefferson, and I'm sorry. There was another. I think it was JJ Arcega-Whiteside. They drafted over DK Metcalf. So we put none of the blame, and Carson deserves his share. I'll be fair; he deserves his share of the blame because ultimately he controls what he controls. But we don't give the shit to the GM for passing over 2 really good wide receivers and gave him bums. Let's just call it what it is. Gave him bums. We don't share some of the blame with Doug Peterson, the coach. They didn't even talk to each other for 8 weeks. Forget what business you're in. If you don't talk to your employees and your staff for 8 weeks, what's going to happen to your business? It's going to fall apart. There was enough blame to go around in Philadelphia, but it seems like Carson Wentz shoulders about 80% of it.
Okay.
Yeah, the other two quarterbacks.
Well, I haven't finished talking about the draft.
Oh,
you're going to come. We're going to come back to quarterback.
Okay.
The pod's quickly becoming the Carson Wentz preview. So
it's the quarterback position in the NFL.
Well, that's exactly true. But let's just quickly touch on the draft, which, look, I can't say I'm a massive fan of, honestly, and maybe you feel differently, Randy. You probably do. I mean, I like your first round pick, Kwity Paye, a lot, because look, this defensive end class was, I think, well, there's no Chase Young in this class. There's no denying that. This was a weak-ish class. However, Kwity Paye might be the guy with the highest floor, maybe it's unfair to say the lowest ceiling, but the highest floor probably of those top guys. They all kind of had issues and question marks, but Kwity Paye, I think, and definitely it was an area of need. So that was very fair. And then the second round, you went edge again with Dayo Odeyingbo.
He's I call him the defensive end out of Vanderbilt.
Okay, that's
just easier to say.
Yeah. And then in the fourth, Kylan Granson. who I believe is getting some positive buzz. And then in the fifth, Sean Davis, and I didn't bother writing down the other ones. But look, I was a little underwhelmed, I think. But then again, I don't have, a Colts eye on it. But I did like the Quiddy Pay pick. But what was your feeling about the draft as a whole, Randy?
I agree with the Quiddy Pay pick, and I listened to. I try. I'm obviously a fantasy football dynasty guy, but I try to stay out of that space entirely. And a lot of the podcasts I listen to love Quiddy Pay. They think he's going to be a steal, and putting him next to DeForest Buckner, the most talented player he'll have ever played football with in his career, and I think the kid's going to be great. I think he'll be rotational. I know they still have Kekamo Toure, and the Colts are apparently not afraid of Achilles tendon injuries. They re-signed Marlon Mack and the young man from Vanderbilt. Again, I'll let you have a shot at pronouncing that name. He had an Achilles injury. So did Eric Fisher, as a matter of fact. So maybe the Colts know something about Achilles that we don't. I think it really comes down to, and I think most draft classes, you're looking for some steals as well as some later round guys to hit. I was looking through some of the picks under Chris Ballard, the GM in Indianapolis. I mean, Quentin Nelson, Darius Leonard, Braden Smith. I think Braden Smith is a name that we don't hear enough about because Nelson is so good, but he's been a tremendous find at right tackle. Walker, you mentioned him. He went to the Cleveland Browns. Rock Ya-Sin's been okay. We don't know what Paris Campbell is yet. Bobby Okereke, I know you guys love IDP, has been awesome. Kari Willis has been awesome. Just I would say a better than average GM at finding talent, especially in the first round and in the second round. And I think his best first round pick ever is DeForest Buckner. They traded their first for DeForest Buckner. And, I mean, he's arguably the second best defensive tackle in the league. So I have faith that Chris Ballard is going to continue to put a very competitive team on the field. So I do like the draft class. The biggest two I'm hoping that pan out are the pass rushers.
Yeah, well, yes, you need it. But obviously, yes, DeForest Buckner, what an addition. The Niners were insane to let him out of the building. And, there's that's an interesting sort of discussion probably for another time, is that whole idea that, once you get out of that top tier, maybe that top sort of 6 to 12 draft picks that are on the board, well, then honestly, it's a crapshoot. And so you get someone like an all-pro player like DeForest Buckner. My goodness, that's franchise changing. But, G, let me throw it over to G, who's itching to talk about offense.
Amazing.
I think.
I'll keep my hands above the table. But we'll start. We've already gone through the QB and Carson Wentz. So let the guys in front of him to protect him. So he went into the 2020 season. If you go by the PFF stats and the way that they rank players and O-lines and whatnot, went in first, ended up seventh. Anthony Costanzo was hampered by injuries basically most of the year, and then he retired this offseason. You acquired, as you've already spoke about, Eric Fisher, who's coming off the Achilles injury, may not start the season, Memphis. So you got your right tackle in Brandon Smith, who is ranked in the top 16 tackles. Quentin Nelson, well, mate, don't even have to mention. He's just an absolute monster, that dude. Your right guard in Mike Glowinski,
I know that one.
He's ranked in the top 24. You got your center Ryan Kelly, who's a top 10 guy 2 of the past 3 seasons. Mate, how good is this offensive line? Mate, Carson Wentz must be going, thank God. And someone like Jonathan Taylor must be going, mate, another year running behind these guys. He's got to be looking forward to it.
No, 100%, and that is how the Colts want to win. I think you're going to see a lot of play action behind that offensive line. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to eat it up. I think Nyheim Hines will continue to be successful. And the Colts last year, they were top 10 in rushes per game. So they clearly want to run behind that offensive line. I mean, you said it. The biggest thing that the Colts are going to have to figure out is how they're going to pay Quentin Nelson this offseason and how they're going to pay Darius Leonard. We just saw the contract that Fred Warner got in San Francisco. So it's going to be, that's my biggest concern with the offensive line. I know they paid Ryan Kelly. I know they paid Glowinski. And also Braden Smith is also a free agent. He was part of that class as well. So it's going to be interesting. You want to, but again, that's going to be the thing that Chris Ballard, who's a very shrewd GM, is going to be able to sit back and look at. Hey, how is everybody performing? Who do we want to re-sign? I mean, the big thing is, and I'm not going back to Carson Wentz, but his contract. With the amount of money they owe him over the next few years, if he plays at a top 12 QB level, then that's going to afford them the money to be able to re-sign the free agents they need to re-sign. So that and the Colts are pretty cheap. Me and the Colts have that in common. So I think that offensive line is – I like Cleveland's offensive line, another really good offensive line. But outside of that, I can't think of too many I would trade this group for.
No, without a doubt, it's a stunning, and they should be ranked. I think they're ranked behind going this year.
Well,
only the Browns were the only ones ahead of them.
One of the craziest factoids I saw over the off season was that Quentin Nelson is a 3-year All-Pro coming out as a rookie, and the only other two to do it was like Barry Sanders and like Deion Sanders or something. It was like he is one of 3 people in the history of the National Football League to start his career with 3 straight All-Pro selections. So
wow,
that's it's pretty good company.
He's the type of guy that you go around with the money collector, and instead of collecting money, you just go around to your offensive players and just say, look, do you mind just chop? If you everybody chop $500,000 off a 4-year contract, we can sign him up, no problems. If Carson Wentz should be going, hell yeah, and so should Jonathan Taylor.
Why we're talking
he's
about
only a running back rookie, so.
Why we're still talking about the player acquisition and stuff, that's one of those things. It's like when they bring in players, like the first people to call new additions to the team are Quentin Nelson and are Darius Leonard. And they tell them, if you're not prepared to work, if you're not prepared to, and this is not coming from the GM or the owner, this is coming from the players on the field, not the coach, but the players. They're calling you and saying, if you're not ready to work, if you're not ready to be part of this team, just don't even show up. Yeah. You will not work here. I love that about the culture that they've built there, and Quentin Nelson is one of those guys. It's one of those things, no matter what you do, your best, whether it's your office, whatever, the people that are best have to set the culture. And I think Quentin Nelson and that offensive line do just that.
Without a doubt. So the guys running behind this offensive line, we saw what Jonathan Taylor did last year, moving up, and Chris Ballard moving up into the second round. I think he moved up, 3 or 4 spots to grab him in the second round last year, Memphis. Slow start. I believe
that's correct.
Yeah, so slow start to the season. I think all the rookies found it hard last year, being that, with the restrictions with COVID and whatnot. But the second half of the year, mate, he was on absolute tear. Ended up with 1169, 11 TDs, 299 yards receiving, and mate, he only did that off 47% of the snaps he was on the field. So going forward, that percentage is definitely going to tick up. So you have him. So behind him, you have Naheem Hines, who's probably a really nice, perfect second guy behind someone like Jonathan Taylor. Not only is he a good pass catcher, but mate, the dude can, which he doesn't probably get the respect for, he can move between tackles. He's very good a runner on his own. Marlon Mack is another question we're going to have to talk about because he's coming off the Achilles. If you look at the list of players that have come off Achilles, and I heard this on another podcast during the week, and they went through about maybe 12 guys, and none of them have done anything after the Achilles. So, and then behind them, number 4 running back, we have Jordan Wilkins, who I was hoping for more when he came out. But look, he's been solid, but not striking. So just talk about this running back room.
You couldn't ask for more of a running back than Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, again, is just another exercise in patience. And Marlon Mack went down game 1 to an Achilles against Jacksonville. And everybody was just all of a sudden, I don't know how the mentality shift is like all of a sudden, here's a guy in his second pro game in an off season affected by COVID, and all of a sudden he's just going to run away with this. No ramp up period, no getting ready, but and then all of a sudden, over the last 5 to 8 games, we saw a monster back there. This is what Chris Ballard wants. This is what the Colts want to do. And I'll be honest, we think about Sean McVay. Sean McVay is another coach that wants to run the ball. They ran the ball the 13th most by percentage last year. The run sets up the pass. You know, it's kind of like boxing. You go for the body, you go for the body, you go for the head. And this is a team that's going to run the ball. Again, 10th most times rushing, the top 10 in percentage of rushing the ball. They rushed the ball 459 times last year. We don't need Jonathan Taylor to get 459 rush attempts. Give him 280. Give him 285, and let the other guys have the other 180. I'm good with that. Give him a solid bell cow's workload, and then Naheem Hines. You're right. He's a weapon. You know, they can move him out into the slot. They can motion him out of the backfield. You can put them on the field together. Too tight. I mean, this is a very multiple offense, but having a piece like Jonathan Taylor to be the focal point again goes back to Carson Wentz. When Jonathan Taylor becomes the focal point, how much stress does that take off of Carson Wentz? I'm not blaming Philadelphia, but had they used Miles Sanders more, they have a good running back, but the Colts are actually going to do this. They're actually going to run the ball, play some defense, and, put everybody in position to be successful. Jordan Wilkins is a dude, just a dude. He is what he is. Marlon Mack is going to be the most scrutinized backup running back in the league. Everyone who plays fantasy football, dynasty fantasy football, everyone is going to be dying to see how he looks coming back from his recovery of an Achilles. So here's the thing. If the Colts get useful snaps out of Eric Fisher, Marlon Mack, and the kid from Vanderbilt, all of a sudden every team with players with an Achilles injury are going to be in Indianapolis asking this medical staff some questions. But getting back to your original question, I do like Jonathan Taylor. I think he's a top 5 running back in the league, and big things coming from this running game in 2021.
So with just on Marlon Mack, in the run that he's given, the opportunity he's given, and he looks good, and it doesn't look. You're never going to be 100%. Say he's 90% of the guy that he used to be. You've signed him to a 1-year deal. What happens then? If you're going to start signing guys like we talked about quick, these are the type of guys that he's basically there to sell himself for 1 year, isn't he? And hopefully for you guys, you get something out of it.
Well, I think it goes like this. I think the Colts organization is very loyal, and he blew out his Achilles. It was his free agent season. I mean, it wasn't a big free agent off-season class of running backs last year, but I think he probably would have got a job somewhere. So what did the Colts do? Even this is what you do when you keep your salary cap in line. The salary cap's $180 million this year. Next year it goes up to like 207 or 211. $1 million. That's not even 1%. It's like 0.6% of the salary cap. It gives you $1 million to do right by a guy, probably his biggest payday of his career as a lower rounded drafted player.
Yep.
And now he is, going to get the opportunity that he can still play. They'll probably let him walk next offseason, but this goes back to taking care of people. They're going to give him the opportunity. They know they've got Wilkins there who can be a backup. They know they have a role for Naheem Hines. Let Marlon Mack come back, and for $1 million, it costs you nothing to give him an opportunity. If he plays good, you got a really good backup running back that's played in the scheme, that can take carries off of your bell cow. And it gives him a chance to audition on that bad Achilles that he could maybe get another 2 to 3 years out of his career. So that's kind of where I'm at with him.
Yeah, it is. It's, as you say, it's almost like PR within your building,
within the locker room.
Within the locker room. This will look after you. You do the right thing, but we'll do the right thing by you.
I think that's the one thing they do real well here. Is we talked about the culture with the players of hard work. I think that Frank Reich and Chris Ballard, and I lived through the Ryan Grigson days. Chuck Pagano seemed to be a really nice man. I don't know that he was a leader of men, but he was a very nice man. but I don't think there was this kind of cult. And Jim Irsay, to his credit, I mean, it's been said that a man who knows what he doesn't know knows a lot. And Jim Irsay knows that he is not the one to set the culture in that building. So he hired 2 guys to do it for him. So taking care of Marlon Mack is just another example of, what's going on in Indy.
Yeah. Okay, let's move across to the receiving core. Now you've got a aging T.Y. Hilton who resigned in free agency. You hold on to Zach Pascal and you on a second round tender. You've got a sophomore in Michael Pittman, who I love, but he's got to take the next step now. You got a consistently injured slot guy in Paris Campbell, another guy that I really like coming out. Not that means anything. You only took one other wide receiver in the draft, and that was in the 7th round of some guy that's the dartboard throw in the dark blindfolded. And you got your tight ends in Mo Alley-Cox and Jack Doyle. Mate, not setting the world on fire at the tight end position, but both reliable guys. Mo Alley-Cox has shown at times that, mate, he's a hard dude to cover just for sheer size. So just before we move on to another question I've got here, just speak about those guys, T.Y. Hilton, Zach Pascal, Michael Pittman, and Paris Campbell.
All right. Well, before I do, I came prepared for my friends in Australia. I want to give your listeners and your viewers on YouTube some references. If you don't want my opinion, you want to hear what Chris Ballard himself thinks about this receiving group.
Yes, I've read what he said.
I'm going to give you 2 podcasts to go download when you finish listening to this beauty. Go find the Pat McAfee show. It was probably around the 1st of July. Chris Ballard was a guest. And then there was the Athletic podcast with Nate Tice, and he talked about this group. And, Pat McAfee was kind of grilling him. Obviously, they have a relationship. They know each other, about why he was not more involved in the Julio Jones deal. And Ballard, to paraphrase, said, people are often afraid of what they don't know. We know Julio Jones. That would be comfort. It would be comforting to go out and get a veteran like Julio Jones because he's good. But he has the utmost confidence in Michael Pittman Jr. and in this group in general. And if you look at T.Y. Hilton's numbers last year coming down the back end, they were actually pretty good. He had some injury issues in camp and in the first part of the season. And I think it was the last 6 games, maybe 7, that T.Y. Hilton was a top 15 fantasy wide receiver. But we gloss over that. Now with T.Y., health is going to be an issue. But Chris Ballard thinks he has enough. And then, Mo Alley-Cox, I think from a fantasy standpoint, this is a make or break year. So for those of your listeners that play in a regular draft, don't be afraid to draft Mo Alley-Cox super, super late, because if you don't see anything in the first 2 or 3 games, you can throw him to the side and pick up someone else.
Like the Colts may do.
What's that?
Like the Colts may do.
Here's the thing: if I had to pick one between him and Jack Doyle.
Jack Doyle, yeah.
I'm totally leaning the upside. I mean, yeah. Jack Doyle needs receptions, so I think they have enough. Is it going to be confused with what they've got going on in Cleveland or Dallas no? But I think they have enough, and again, it's based off the run, and these guys have a lot better chance to get it open when more of the defensive game plans around stopping Jonathan Taylor. T.Y. Hilton can still get open, and Michael Thomas can be a nice possession receiver. So it's not flashy, but I think it's a really good group.
Look, what concerns me the most is the fact that Paris Campbell hasn't been on the football field for 2 years, okay? And we've seen that T.Y. at his age, they're all always getting, mate, I'm 52, mate. I was digging holes and cutting down trees today, and I'm falling apart. And I'm not getting hit by anybody. But it's the fact that in a draft that was deep in wide receivers, deep means I think too many people got the point there were so many wide receivers coming out, they called it deep. To me, deep is deep as in good quality wide receiver. I just thought there was a lot of guys.
Absolutely.
Right, that they didn't actually take someone to cover a guy that hasn't been on the park for 2 years and an aging, an aging guy. That just didn't take anybody. So if someone breaks down in here, who covers what? How much pressure does that put on somebody else? How much pressure could that put on Michael Pittman as a second-year guy? It's just, Zach Pascal's good and he's proven to be a guy, but that's what he is. And then where's the passing game gone?
Well, everyone they have, is anyone missing from last year? And Phillip Rivers threw for 4,200 yards. Is it the chicken or the egg? These same guys helped Phillip Rivers produce 4,200 yards last year. Again,
but if you're not going forward, if you're standing still, you're going backwards. That's what I've always said to my son. No, if you're not always moving, if you're standing still, you're going backwards because everybody else is moving forward. Do you understand?
I do, yes. I do. If you're not growing, you're dying. You're not growing, you're dying. But I just think it's this: we have to win sexy. That if we don't have a Justin Jefferson, if we don't have a DK Metcalf, if we don't have a big name, then it must be wrong. And this is more about the collection of the overall talent. Is it great? No. I saw PFF recently ranked, I think it was either PFF or ESPN. They rated the Colts' offensive weapons as 29th in the league. And I don't think that's too far off. But again, who are they going to get with that? The second round pick maybe could have been a wide receiver, but there's been more trades in the NFL than ever. There's no reason why they couldn't add a wide receiver if they need to. But I haven't seen anything, and this is not a much different group that Andrew Luck had here. There's just way too much emphasis putting on having a quote-unquote star receiver. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won last year with 2.5. I'm going to call Antonio Brown half a former star wide receiver. They still have Godwin, but they really won that Super Bowl on the back of their defense. You need enough talent at the wide receiver position that you can move the ball, and I think that's what the Colts have. Again, if Phillip Rivers can get 4,200 yards out of this group, I think Carson Wentz could probably do the same.
Yeah, it's not that fact that I'm not saying you have to go out and get a star wide receiver. I'm just saying that with what's happened there, just not to take anybody, not even in free agency to go and they got some guys, but no one's that's really going to play a part. It's just another level of insurance at the position.
I just don't know who they were going to get though. I mean, Juju. Who was the big name? Sammy Watkins.
No, I'm not saying anybody big. I'm just saying that they didn't take anybody. A 7th round guy. Look, go and get someone in the 5th round. There was a stack of wide receivers.
Top of your head, who was a 5th round wide receiver that you think is going to make a difference?
Here we go.
I'm
not saying it's going to make a difference. I'm just saying someone who's there that if you lose a couple of guys, which has happened.
If you lose a couple of guys, you can sign someone off someone's practice squad. If you lose someone, you can trade for a wide receiver. You think Christian Kirk's available in Arizona? There are guys probably out there that if the Colts felt they need to due to injury, they could probably add someone.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The NCAA is giving the NFL 20, 25 wide receivers a year. They're out there. So,
to be fair, we're kind of being, you look at a squad like the Bucs and you look at Mike.
I can see why Randy's not calling me these days too.
And Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. I mean, you get blinded by the names. We've seen Zach Pascal be productive in this offense. I mean, yes, the names aren't necessarily household names. Michael Pittman's got the potential to be, and T.Y. we know, but it's going to be, what we're hoping for, I guess, is a much more consistent workmanlike effort from this group, aren't we?
I'm just looking basically at the fact that if guys start missing time,
people are going to miss time. I mean, but what if Zach Pascal misses time, but Paris Campbell doesn't, and then that 4.3 speed is on the field?
That'd be great for all my dynasty because I own him everywhere.
Well, again, we just kind of it's one of those. There is nobody sexy here. I mean, look, I don't want to pick on because this is not a Chargers podcast, but look at the Chargers. I mean, you have Keenan Allen, and then what else? Maybe Mike Williams, maybe Josh Palmer. Maybe Donald Parham. I mean, there's a lot of
Jared
teams.
Cook.
Look at New Orleans, who just lost Michael Thomas. This is the NFL wide receiving core. We get so blinded by what teams like Dallas and Tampa Bay have done that we just think everybody has to have what they have. And I'll be honest with you, I would much rather emulate the Colts model than the Dallas model.
Yeah, the lunch pail guys are fine.
That's right.
It's just like a gang up thing.
No, look at this. Look at this, AJ. The guy with the sunglasses on wants sex appeal at wide receivers.
I don't want sex appeal, Memphis. All I want is if guys go down, you have somebody else to put on the. And I'm concerned. That's the only concern. Like I said, you've got a guy.
Well, hey, Michael Thomas went down. We consider the Saints a good organization. Michael Thomas went down for the first 5 to 7 games of the season. How are they looking behind him? Hot, steamy garbage. Steamy garbage. And then
my Adam Troutman shares just went up. I bet.
If we get Aaron Rodgers for a second, if Devontae Adams goes down, what's the Green Bay got? I could argue that what Green Bay has behind Devontae Adams is worse than what the Colts have behind T.Y. Hilton.
Mate, and when we have the Green Bay guys, I might have asked him exactly the same question.
I am going to hold you to that. I want facts. I want consistency. I want to know from the other people. I want them grilled about their wide receiver group as hard as I've been grilled about this one. I'll have you know.
I promise you that. I'm good for it.
I'll bail you out, Randy. Let's talk defense.
Oh, we have one of those?
Yeah, you do. Bits and pieces. So where do we start? Okay, so let's start on the D line, which is looking better with Kwity Paye, obviously, and DeForest Buckner. But it's all about where do you get the pass rush from. Now we'll see. I think Paye will be definitely an improvement.
Can I just say about Kwity Paye, mate?
Yeah,
mate. Don't you love backstories? Where people come from, where the families come from.
I love people.
And what they have to do for the kids and what he did for his mum, saying that I promise you that you won't have to pay for my college tuition. And he busted his ass to get, it's fantastic what she gave up,
I don't want to sidetrack your podcast, but here I go because that's what I do. It's probably why I only get to come on once or twice a year. But this is why I like quarterbacks that don't come from Power 5 schools. It's why I like guys like Patrick. Well, I guess it's still technically a Power 5 school, but guys like Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech, Justin Herbert, Oregon. These guys that seemingly, that there could be some exceptions, that come from Alabama, USC, Oklahoma. They seem soft as Charmin. I'm sorry, they're super talented. That's how they wound up at Alabama and Oklahoma. But it seems like when things get really difficult, Baker Mayfield played great last year, but everything went about as well for Baker Mayfield as it could possibly go. But look at Kyler Murray. When things got bad, his shoulder got a little boo-boo. I'm going to run less. It's a luxury. I'm telling you, people in life who come from adversity tend to stick a lot longer than people who don't. So, yeah, it's not something that the analytics nerds can put on a spreadsheet, but the fact that he's overcome something tells me he's got some grit and, the ability to overcome. So, again, you can't measure that, but I like that.
Yeah. That's why I brought it up. Please continue. Sorry.
Okay, very fair point. Look, the Colts D as a whole, I think it's got some nice pieces. It doesn't feel like a fantastic unit necessarily, but it's got some pieces that I think are developing. It's a reasonably young unit too. I mean, okay, so on the D line, Lewis and Toure, but Buckner and Paye, I mean, Buckner is going to create enough noise, and if Paye can come in and have an impact, which I think he really, really can, then that can be not bad. Obviously, you let Anthony Walker walk, no pun intended.
Oh, you should have made a pun intended. That was good.
Yeah, and he looked fantastic, especially when Leonard was out, and he was the guy. He looked fantastic, but you could afford to let him go because of Bobby Okereke, who looks also fantastic, and I believe is going to be playing Mike. But Leonard obviously we alluded to the big contract that Fred Warner got, and so Leonard is next in line, and he'll probably, he's a better player than Fred Warner, frankly. He'll get a bigger contract, but Leonard and Okereke, and then there's just guys, but Leonard and Okereke in the middle. And then in the defensive backfield, again, it's young, but it looks up and coming. I mean, I think that Julian Blackman is going to be a bit of a breakout player this year.
He's going to be a stud. Him and Kari Willis, and then they'll rotate in Marvell Tell, who set out last year due to COVID concerns. I think that's where the sneaky goodness from this defense comes in.
Yes, sir, for sure. And you know what? You can in today's NFL. We don't necessarily talk about strong safety and free safety. They're just safeties. And likewise, the distinction between linebacker and defensive back, it's all just like they're all over the place. So those guys are going to get plenty of work. And then across the back, a few more. Well, Kenny Moore is great. A few more question marks. Your Rock Sin, as you said, the jury is a little out. And Xavier Rhodes. So definitely some good players and some good pieces. It doesn't look like a fantastic defense, but there's players that are on the rise, Randy.
Well, I'm looking at the defense. The oldest three players on the defense are TJ Carey and Xavier Woods.
Right.
And they're 30. But here you go. Darius Leonard, 25. Kenny Moore, 25. Kari Willis, 24. Bobby Okereke, 24. DeForest Buckner, 26 in his prime. Grover Stewart, 27. This is a young group. Justin Blackman. And then now we're going to add two rookies. Hopefully the young man from Vandy is going to be able to contribute toward the back end of the season in some situational pass rush. But yeah, you nailed it. They did let Anthony Walker go. I'm not walking into your Walker walking joke. Christopher Walken. But he had 92 combo tackles and 65 solo, and they let him walk. He's solid. He's solid. But Bobby Okereke played 14 games last year. He was the starter in 8, and he had 72 combo tackles and 57 solo tackles. He had 4 tackles for loss. I mean, look out for Bobby.
Blitzing too. He's quite versatile. Okereke.
I would agree. And here's the thing. I think the one thing outside of Buckner and Leonard, it may be harder to hear some of these guys' names because the Colts will do a good job of rotating them around quite a bit.
Yeah.
And on the offensive line, again, you don't hear the name Grover Stewart a lot, but he had 6 tackles for loss last year and 5 QB hits. And I believe Danico Autry left in free agency. So I think you could see a big uptick in production from a Grover Stewart.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on the young man from Ohio, Tyquan Lewis. He could take a step forward this year as well. So I'm a little concerned with Autry taking his 7.5 sacks on down the road. But overall, this is a young group. This is a solid group. And the Colts last year against the run were number 2 in the NFL against the rush. But they were 20th against the pass. So clearly some work to do on the back end. I think this is the make or break year for Rock Ya-Sin. It's either, and then Xavier Rhodes. I mean, is it Rhodes closed from the days in Minnesota? No, it's not. But is he serviceable enough as a pro in the Colts scheme to help him get the job done? Sure he is. And maybe with more of a traditional offseason and not so much of a COVID offseason, that they'll be able to all work together a little bit more and advance this. Because I would agree, the back 4, the secondary is the thing I'm concerned with.
Yeah. We actually, this was a loss for sure. Malik Hooker, who I thought was pretty good. Campy's just asking about him because he's now a Cowboy.
Well, perfect. Him and Kikemo Toure are kind of like the Paris Campbell of the defense. Right. I think guys that have a tremendous amount of physical tools and talent, you just can't stay healthy. What's the old expression? You can't make the club from the tub. You can't help the team if you're constantly in the trainer's room, getting worked on. If you go to our friends, Dynasty Trade Calculator, Izzy and JP over there, if you put Paris Campbell in their trade calculator, it has like a little search thing that comes, like a little medallion that comes up. Like some of them might say, bell cow running back or workhorse or whatever. The one next to Paris Campbell says surgeon's best friend. And that's kind of how it is with some of these other guys. It just seems like some guys, that's their career.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because for no doubt do I think Malik Hooker was an extremely talented ball player.
Oh, absolutely. Anything else to add about the defense before we just move on, just overall?
No, I mean, offense sells. Well, they say in baseball, chicks dig the long ball. Chicks dig offense. Well, let's talk. We got DeForest Buckner. I would love for Julian Blackman, excuse me. I would love for Julian Blackman to be that third level. You got Buckner on the front. You got Buckner on the front four. Leonard in the linebackers. If it goes right down the middle, and it would go defensive. It would just be perfect if Blackman takes a big step this year. Julian Blackman, Julian Edelman. We're talking Edel versus Black. There's not a whole lot of difference in that name, pal.
Oh, look, Randy, I've got him in almost every one of my IDP leagues, and I think he's going to be.
Oh, he's going to be a beaut. I just really.
Fantastic.
Well, Randy didn't stitch him before we started moving across to the defensive side of the ball.
I've already got in the IDP league we're all in together. I've already got Bobby Okereke and Kari Willis. So hey, I'm totally cool. And don't forget the name Kari Willis, the strong safety. He had 65 solo tackles last year and 3 tackles for loss. So he did have 2 interceptions as well. So there is some potential there as well.
Yep, very good numbers. So I mean, an 11-5 season. Well, the one thing I can promise you is they're not going 11-5, but an 11-5 season last year.
They could go 11-5-1.
They could, yeah. So I mean, it really does probably come down to Carson Wentz at the end of the day, and probably not to simplify it into one player, but I'm going to. But what's your feeling about? We heard from Alex, Mr. Titan, earlier talking about how he thinks that the division's a 2-horse race, which is very fair, probably very fair. How do you see the Colts doing this season?
Well, I think they do well. So maybe you guys have heard of Warren Sharp Football Analysis. He does a thing where he does a strength of schedule calculator. And what he does is he takes every team's opponent's Vegas win total. So instead of using last year's win total, he uses what Vegas expects because a lot's changed from last year this year. So he takes and accumulates your opponent's projected win-loss, and then he recalculates that as strength of schedule. The Colts have the 6th easiest strength of schedule per Sharp Football Analysis. Only the Niners, the Broncos, the Browns, the Dolphins, and the Buccaneers have an easier projected strength of schedule. So now it does start off very tough. The Colts play the NFC West this year, so they're going to start off with the Rams. They're going to start off with the Seahawks. I think the Niners are in there, Baltimore. So if you look around at the start of the season and the Colts are 2-3, 3-3, 3-4, to be expected. Their murderer's row is in the first part of the season, but then the schedule gets very friendly down the back half, and that's kind of the way I'd like it. You would love to. This is a team that is afraid of competition. I think one of the best games in the NFL last year was the Colts versus the Packers at Indy. I think it's going to be good. I hope the Colts can simply just split the 4 games with the NFC West, because those are 4 really good teams. So I think if that happens, I do believe that the Colts will win the division. They'll finish somewhere around 11-6 or 12-5. Got to make sure this adds up to 17 now.
Yes.
Because what I wouldn't want to do is I wouldn't want to. And here's the reason why I give the Colts the edge over the Tennessee Titans, and that's just simply because the Titans are not a very good defense, and they lost a lot of pieces on defense. The Titans were 24th in team defense last year. They lost a pass rusher in Jadeveon Clowney. They lost their corner, I don't recall his name, who went to the New York Giants. I know where he went. It's weird, huh?
I think they pushed Clowney out the door. I don't think they.
Yeah, it was like, here's your hat, watch your hurry. They just walked him right out the door. But they didn't do a lot to do that. They did draft Caleb Farley in Tennessee. So maybe if his back problems don't act up, maybe that helps. But this is a defense that was bad last year. And at the end of the day, I think the offenses will be similar. They both want to run the ball, Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor. But at the end of the day, I think the emerging Colts defense, the young guys on defense, are going to be the difference maker. Colts take the division, like I said, 11-6, 12-5, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Colts Titans going to be,
but the Titans have star wide receivers. Memphis.
that clearly has them. That clear. Yep. Well, they do. There's no question. I mean, AJ Brown, from a dynasty standpoint, is a top 5 dynasty wide receiver. From like a seasonal standpoint, I'm not quite ready to put him that high in 2021 because, there's still some really good guys.
So he's an after the catch monster.
Sure he is. Absolutely he is. Yeah. But my thing with Tennessee is that if that defense is that bad and they get behind and they can't implement their basic strategy of run the ball and play and run the ball and then play from ahead with that running game, if they have to play from behind, then we're going to see what Tennessee's made of. So I don't think the Colts beat them by a bunch. I think maybe it's a game, but yeah, I think the Colts get it done.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, Randy, I think we have rounded this out very well.
Well, I'm glad to be back.
I'm not
going anywhere.
You asked Pat Lane at the end of the Patriots one. What was it?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Look, a guy, there's yin and yang here. So a guy that you think we should be watching for the positive, and then on the other side, there's always, good and evil, isn't there, in everything. So a guy that you feel that might not actually live up to expectations. Let's put it that way. That sounds better than what I said last week. I think I said some guy's going to be absolute crap, just fall apart. So what on either side of the ball?
A He-Man and a Skeletor, if you will.
Okay, sure. I'm going to start with I'm going to go back to Julian Blackmon, not Julian Edelman. Julian Blackmon. If he takes the step forward and takes his game to the level of a Darius Leonard and a DeForest Buckner, that defense is going to be scary. It was already really good against the run. They've got stars at the first 2 levels. You get a star at the 3rd level, now you're cooking with gas. So I do believe that Julian Blackmon is our He-Man. And as much as I love him, there's a lot riding, similar to Derrick Henry in Tennessee, there's a lot riding on Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, I think a lot of people might think it's Carson Wentz, but the thing that's going to help Carson Wentz is going to be Jonathan Taylor. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to tote the rock. He has got to put fear in the hearts of defensive coordinators that will allow Carson Wentz, that offensive line, and our extremely mediocre receiving game. It would totally allow those guys to look less mediocre until we can trade for like AJ Green later, because he's got name value that in G's mind that will automatically amplify the value of his core. Hey, I've heard of him. Zach who?
I was speaking to Kyle August this week at SmackDown. Everybody knows who Kyle is. Speaking during the week, and with Jonathan Taylor, is the running back position like the worst position to play in the NFL? From a longevity point of view, as a washed up straight away point of view, like there's wide receivers going around this league that should not be playing football, and they still are. But running backs, you screw up for 12, and mate, that could be done.
There's the old thing that the NFL's an acronym and it stands not for long.
Yeah.
And there's no bigger example of that than the running back position. Even middle linebackers are starting to get paid now. But it's just like anything else. The best of the best will continue to get paid. The best of the best will have longevity. But yes, there is no we're all, again, fantasy and dynasty gamers. In 2018, Todd Gurley was top of the world. Today, Todd Gurley is 26 years old and is unemployed as we record this show. So, yes, it's a very volatile position. And I think that kind of makes Tennessee somewhat of an anomaly, that their entire offense is built around the running game.
Yeah. But you're going to get those because every now and then, aren't you? They're going to come along with, the Barry Sanders, the Emmitt Smith, those sort of guys, they come along and look, let's put Derek Henry has another big season this year, and he's right up there with those blokes.
One of the players I was the most wrong as long as I've been doing Dynasty, I think it was Derek Henry. He is special. He was underutilized under, I think it was Mike. He had two M's. It was Mike something. It was before Vrabel. The head coach there was just poorly mismanaged Derrick Henry. Yes, you have to be very fair. But I think the fear as a team and as an organization, when the running game is your entire identity on offense, then you lose that player due to an ACL or a long tenure. It's not as easy to replace, Derrick Henry with Darrington Evans or Jeremy McNichols as it is to maybe get a little something extra out of Zach Pascal if T.Y. Hilton goes down.
Yeah.
It's a much bigger difference. So Jonathan Taylor, I think he's ready for it, but if something happens to him, I don't think the offense is anywhere near as effective, obviously, with Marlon Mack and with Jordan Wilkins. Because Naheem Hines' role is kind of Naheem Hines. And Andrew jumped in and saved me. It was Mike Malarkey. I started to say Mike, come on, same thing. This is close. Julian Edelman, Julian Blackman, Mike McCarthy, Mike Malarkey. It's a bunch of malarkey. All a bunch of malarkey.
Well, Randy, it is a pleasure as always, and it's been a minute. It's been a minute since we've had you on, actually. So it's been good to be able to see your smiling face and have a chat about the Colts and what's the Dynasty Warzone got on nowadays or coming up.
We will currently be 6 days a week in about a week. We have a young man named Dallas Hyder at Salad Galore. It's Dallas backwards, Salad Galore. He's been doing some rookie content. So what his show is going to be is it's going to be NFL Year 1 rookies, so this most recent rookie class, and then looking at the draft eligible players coming up. So you can it's not quite a Devy show, it's not quite a Dynasty show, but it kind of mixes the two together. So you can kind of get a feel for it. This way, if you're a Dynasty gamer, and in next year's draft class, if you've been listening to Dallas, you have an idea of who some of these players are. You're not hearing it for the first time in February. Obviously, our boy Kyle August and Jake are going to be doing the Fantasy Football Smackdown. We're working on having our Dr. Kyle, going to work on having him on with these guys. So it's really nice to have a board-certified doctor of physical therapy on with Jake and Kyle from a seasonal standpoint. When a player gets injured, that's what Kyle does. He's a doctor of physical therapy. So, and then Jerry and I will continue to do the Warzone on Wednesdays. And then on Sundays this year, on Game Day Sundays from 11:30 Eastern Standard Time till 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or right up until the Sunday kick, we're going to do the Sunday Football Shit Show, where we'll be talking everything. We'll be helping people with trades, start sits, a little bit of gambling advice, some DF, just everything football, everything that you'd want to know leading up to a Sunday kickoff, and that'll be live only on YouTube. So you guys might still be asleep. I know G is weird because he'll get up at 3 a.m. to watch football, and God bless you for it. But yeah, man, we have a lot going on over there. We're on YouTube just like you guys, Dynasty Warzone, and we'll be doing a mock draft this coming Monday. It'll be myself. It'll be Kyle. It'll be Jake. Jerry is unavailable, but we'll have 2 or 3 other people from the Dynasty Warzone crew doing a live draft on YouTube. And when you're doing a live draft, it's better on YouTube than podcast.
I really like the gentleman you're bringing on to do not the Devy. It's sort of like he's just going to talk about the group of guys that are coming out this year, because you listen to a Devy podcast and man, they're talking about guys in high school.
Yeah,
I'm going, dude, I don't give a shit about. That's what they do, but mate, that's just too far away for me to think about.
Well, thank you. Dallas is someone that I met last season. We were talking about a dynasty roster. Just a really, really intelligent young man with a passion for football. He does love college, and he was asking me what I was looking for, and I was like, to your point, I don't need to know about high school seniors. There are plenty of people out there in the space. You think Dynasty is a niche version of fantasy football. Man, you get into high school and Devy and some of that's the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. AJ do the exponential math there for us. But man, thank you very much. I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of the whole team. Everybody's doing a great job, and we're excited for a big 2021.
Nice.
Dynasty Warzone is just becoming a dynasty.
We're going to change it to like the global football. I don't know.
There we go.
It's weird because because we inherited the Dynasty Warzone. I mean, you guys knew about the Dynasty Warzone before I was ever on there. It goes back to Sheps and Jernigan and I'm drawing a blank with the gentleman who was from the Seattle area. I can see his name, but those three guys are the ones who started it. We inherited it. But, at some point there may have to be a rebranding because we don't want people to just think of Dynasty because we cover every aspect of football content and entertainment.
Nice. Very nice. Well,
and you do. Great. And every week, the best part of the week is you carrying Jerry.
I have an agreement with Mrs. Jerry. You got broad
shoulders, mate. That's why you do those power lifts and deadlifts and squats is because you got bloody carry Jerry.
I have to. I have an agreement with Jerry's wife that if Jerry passes before me, I get to be one of his pallbearers. Because as I told her, I've been carrying him this long. I would like the opportunity to complete the job.
Beautiful. Love it.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'm glad he can take a joke too.
Here's the thing. Jerry's like the little brother that I never wanted. I can bust Jerry's balls and I can have some fun with him, but if anyone else did it, I'd probably lose my wig. It's just part of being a family. And Jerry and I have been doing the podcast now for over 3 years. We've been like 160 Wednesdays in a row without ever missing a show. And that's my guy. Jerry is the best, man.
Yeah, and I look forward to the day that one day I might actually get on a pod with you guys when he's actually there.
I'm going to put him in a headlock. I'm going to drag him to the studio, and we're going to get both of you guys on. I'm still going to have you guys on before the season starts to talk some IDP.
Nice.
Beautiful. Looking forward to it.
Sounds great. Well, listen, on that note, we're going to wrap up. Thanks very much, Randy. Obviously, if you don't yet check out the Dynasty Warzone, please do. They're producing tons of content. And a wide variety of content as well. But Randy, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my brothers. And I can't say enough good things about the Australian football fans. We have a ton in our group.
No, don't. No.
You guys are great.
Talk about us. The other guys.
I'm talking about like the rest of the Australians, and then you guys. The Australian people have a ferocious appetite for American football, and I think that's super awesome.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic.
Just not a good group of guys.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's wrap this up. So on behalf of Randy, myself, and the Iceman, thanks for joining us for this Colts preview, and we'll catch you next time. I feel the need, G.
For speed.
Nice.